research that to give us what it's about. Just believing in this present all things. The Christian life that we have, um, we're blessed with abundance and we're blessed with joy in our life. I don't think we can deny that. Sometimes, we have some dark valleys that we got to times ourselves out in the wilderness. To figure out how did I get here and why did I get here in any situation. And I believe that while God's all present, He's all knowing and all powerful and whatnot, He allows situations to happen in our life that we can draw closer to Him. That our encounters in the world that we live in allow us to reach out to Him, depend on Him like we do, and to have some comfort, even though it's a trying time that we're going to go through, or that we are going to go through. There's a guy named Daniel Cowder, and he sings this song, So You Had a Bad Day. Got that melody in there, right? And I think about that, and I can apply that in my life many times. Because, in spite of all the great things that happen in our life, sometimes you have bad days. And that's life, we've got to kind of deal with it as best we can. And in the scriptures, there was a guy who had a bad day. And I want to talk about him a little bit in relationship to us. And that's our good friend Job. This guy, scripture tells us that he was a perfect and upright man. He followed the Lord in everything he did. He hated the evil things that went on in life, and he was blessed. Here in the first chapter of the book of Job, it says there was a man in the land of Oz whose name was Job, and the man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God and eschewed evil. And then there were born to him 7 sons and 3 daughters, and the substance that he had was 7,000 sheep, 300, excuse me. This is a pretty cool thing about it. But I lose my glasses and my eyes out. I didn't prepare it. Now it's going to look a little bit better. I can see it. His substance also was 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 she-asses, and a very great household. So that this man was the greatest of all men of the East. So he was blessed with a lot of stuff. And was he blessed with a lot of stuff because he was a hard worker? Maybe. But it says that he was blessed because he was a perfect and upright man who believed in God. And he had the world by the tail, and he's coasting. Sometimes we have the world by the tail. Sometimes we're coasting in our life, and sometimes we have to take a step away from the Lord and remembering this kind of what Joyce put out for us this morning as well. God had a lot of confidence in Job, which he has probably for us as well. I hope he does. Because later on in the chapter here, it says, now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also with them. That was a strange thing. And the Lord said unto Satan, whence comest thou? And Satan answered, from going to and fro on the earth and from walking up and down in it. And don't we know that happens in our life? That evil one is walking up and down the streets wherever we go. We talked about it a little bit in school with all the chaos that's happening in the Middle East, and even now so in this country. I mean, it's crazy. And that's Satan. In Job's days, he's walking around the earth doing all of his disruptions, and he's here today doing all the disruptions. And the Lord's aware of it. He's having this conversation with Satan, like he doesn't know, like he knows where he's going, but Satan's going to tell him that the Lord said unto Satan, yes, you considered my servant Job, he says. There's none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man again, one that feareth God and escheweth evil. And Satan answered the Lord and said, doth Job fear God for naught? Yeah, why shouldn't he be that way? He's saying, because, you give him everything. He says that, has thou made a hedge about him and about his house and about all that he had on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth his hand now and touch all that he had, and he will curse thee thy face. So Satan's putting this challenge up to the Lord. Can you kind of imagine that? Satan has got the chutzpah to challenge God. Says, yeah, this guy is perfect and upright. He believes in you because he's on a roll. You're blessing him left and right. Shouldn't be anything that he should be unhappy about. But you know what? Satan is saying, yeah, I'm going to challenge him. I'm going to challenge him. And, God is very confident in Job. And God's confident in us. We are enduring some of the same kind of battle. Joyce certainly is. Chuck and John certainly is. Carrie certainly is. Doreen's got in the back of her mind about this thing coming back at her again. We all have something that's going to disturb us somewhat, but thank the Lord that He's omnipresent and He's all around us, and He does have His protective hedge around us. So going back to what comment was that why, to Jeremy's point in Sunday school, if He's all of that, why do bad things happen to good people? Job's a good guy, according to the Lord. You and I are good guys and gals, according to the Lord. He's blessed us abundantly, in everything that goes on in our life. But, Job had a bad day. In one day, listen to what happened to Job in one day. And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, all that he had is in your power. Only upon himself put not forth thy hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord, and there was a day, one day, when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And there came a messenger from Job unto Job, saying, the oxen were plowing, and the asses feeding beside him, and the Sabeans fell upon them and took them away. Yea, they have slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I am only escaped alone to tell thee. That was bad news number one. But while this character was talking, it says, while he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, the fire of God is fallen from heaven, and hath burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them. And I only am escaped or hell. And while he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, the Chaldeans made out 3 bands and fell upon the camels and have carried them away and slain the servants with the edge of the sword. And I am the only one who escaped alone. Okay, is that enough? Oh no. There it says, and yet while he was still speaking, there came also another and said, thy sons and thy daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness and smote the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are dead. And I am only escaped alone to tell them. Yeah, that's one day. We have issues in our lives that, my electrical socket doesn't work, sometimes I got a hot water heater that doesn't heat. Those types of things are the event of my day, if you will. I don't have 4 people knocking on my door telling me that I've lost everything and my family's all gone and all that. And here's how does he respond? How would you respond? I'd be a wreck. I'd be honest with you. Because I forget some of what Joyce taught us about sometimes. And I think we all have a tendency to forget that God's present everywhere. God has all kinds of power here. Job, I think, had this figured out a little bit, because when the question comes about how does he handle it, says, then Job arose and rent his mantle. Yeah, I can do that. And he shaved his head. Okay, I think that's another example of the grief that he was feeling. And he fell down on the ground and he worshiped. And said, naked came out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return, neither or thither. The Lord gave it, and the Lord taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. How would you respond? He's blessing the name of the Lord. He's grieving through the actions that he took, but he's blessing the name of the Lord. You know, and you think that would be enough? But then again, we find that Satan's not done yet. We find the same scenario where it says that there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. Satan came along with them. Same kind of dialogue. Satan says, I'm coming back from going to and from the earth again. And the Lord says, well, have you considered Job? Oh yeah, I considered Job. I fixed him, you know, but I think Satan was somewhat disappointed that he didn't fall completely apart. Why? Because he was perfect and he was upright in the fact that he knew who God was in his life. In spite of the disasters that hit him that one day, it said that he worshiped the Lord. That's kind of unfathomable. But if we follow what Joyce talked about on Sunday school today, it's totally possible because of the faith that we have. But here, Satan's not giving up, and he's not giving up with you and I sometimes. He's just persistent. He sees that opportunity in life, and he takes advantage of it. And here's God. I mean, again, why do bad things happen to good people? God's let something else happen to this poor guy. The Lord says to Satan, you know, consider this guy Job, perfect, upright, fears God, choose evil, and Satan says, you know what, skin for skin, but all that a man hath will give for his life. He put forth thy hand now and touch his home and flesh, and he will curse thy face. And the Lord said, behold, he is in your hand, but save his life. And what happens then? After all of this disaster that happened one day, it says that Satan inflicted Job with these boils and this illness on his body. So now he's sick, in addition to lost everything. And we have bad days, but this is a bad day. We have no comparison, you know, in our lives to kind of meet what this poor guy went through. But you know what? It says his wife, she's had it. Job's sticking through this thing. His wife says, you know what, you must have really ticked off God somehow, some way. You know, look at what's happened to my family, look what's happened to you, it's disgusting. Why don't you just curse God and die? That's what Satan's looking at. Job's wife is at that point. You know? But what does Job say? This perfect and upright man who has this belief in this God that all things are going to work together for good, in spite of what can happen to me. He says here, after his wife says, you better curse God and die and check out. He says, what shall we receive? Shall we receive good at the hand of God? And shall we not receive evil? In all of this, it says Job did not sin with his lips. He's hanging in there. He has the faith in his omnipresent God that can take care of all things in his life. He doesn't know how, he doesn't know when, or whatever. He's sticking with it because of his faith. His friends weren't too much help either. They come on, three of them come along for the next 3 chapters in Job here, where they're just ranting on Job about, you know, you must have really done something bad to get God off like this in your life. You're an evil guy, and you're a bad fella. And he's not getting any help from his friends. His wife is telling him to curse God and die. This poor guy is alone in life. What is he? Remember, the core essence of who he was, perfect and upright in his faith. Blessing the Lord in spite of the trouble that he had. I got some work to do in my faith in comparison to this guy. Like I said, simple things make me go off the deep end. And the Lord's blessed my life and my family accordingly. And we're all very, very fortunate in that. So what's the lesson that, how could Job become so confident as it goes on here in his life? And in the 10th chapter of Job, we see it says, "For I know that my Redeemer liveth," it says, "and he shall stand at the latter day upon the earth." He is not wavering in his faith. He worships the Lord after all of his life is taken away, his family is taken away. His friends and his wife kind of leave him alone to say, just die. This is miserable on all of us, right to say. And he's saying, you know what? I know that my Redeemer lives, and he shall stand with me at the last day. That is the essence of faith. Unbelievable. Now, if we want to be able to have a faith that endures through trials and tribulations in our life, we need to have bad days. Must needs to be opposition in all things, we read in the book of Mormon, right? If we didn't have bad in our life, we wouldn't recognize what good is. So we can be blessed with the good, but have the essence of faith that Job has, that when the bad happens, we can get through that. Our faith could come into play in practice here, just like it's coming out in Joyce's situation. Her lesson again was a testimony of faith. Not making it any easier for her or Dennis in what goes on, but she's holding fast to the belief that she had, like Job. That like Paul says, Timothy, for which cause I also suffer these things, he says. Nevertheless, I am not ashamed, for I know in whom I believe in, and I am persuaded that he is able to keep that which I've committed unto him against his day. That's a stand of faith. I know in whom I believe. That's what we've got to kind of put in our hearts, in our minds. This broken heart and contrite spirit that the Lord says that we got to have. This is what we're talking about. That when you have a bad day, you know what? I got to just pull it in. I gotta deal with it. It's gonna be winter here. It is almost winter, but spring's coming again. Does every year. And in Colorado, what does spring mean? You see in the afternoons these thunderheads build up. You see them out in the plains, right? And you see these bright blue skies turning as dark, billowy cloud, and it rains and it pours and it hails and it does all this stuff. But what do you see after that rainstorm goes away? Rainbow. You gotta have rain before you can see the rainbow. That's what this is about. Job's in a deluge. He's getting pelted like those poor people did at Red Rocks this summer when the hail came at the concert and just wiped people out. He's looking for the rainbow. Still puzzled. I don't know why this happens. It takes 37 chapters in Job for God to start talking to him about what's going on in his life. I don't know how long 37 chapters are here, but it's a while, I think. So Job's going through this agony, this frustration, this situation in his life all this time, and now he's talking about why was I born, and it would have been better if I didn't, and all these kind of things. we kind of put ourselves through that as well, trying to answer the question, why? Why did this happen to me? I'm serving you. I'm an upright guy. I hate evil like you do. And I'm living my life in such a way that is honoring and glorying you, but yet I lose everything. And yet I get these infections on my body. And yet my wife wants me to die and just get out of her way. And my friends, where the heck are they? They're nowhere in my life. I'm all alone. So Job, when God's talking to him, starts to kind of get maybe kind of nervous. And God, says, wait a minute. He asks this question. Who was this that darkened his counsel by words, he says. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth, he says. And if you have any understanding at all, tell me about what I can do and what I've done. Again, Job knows who's best. For four chapters after this, God questions Job about what he knows about what God can do in your life. The issue is that Job repents, not of any sin that he caused, but he repents over the fact that he mistrusted the Lord through the process. And that's what we got to be careful for. That, we do not have our faith shaken in such a way that we give up on God. Because like in Job's case, Job's not giving up. God's not giving up on Job here. He's hanging with him. He's allowing him to go through this stuff here for a purpose that Job still doesn't get an answer. He never did get an answer to the whole thing. And I think Job never found out why all this happened. Sometimes we don't get answers. Why do I get this illness? Why do I lose my job? Why does my relationship go south? And all these things, why does my hot water heater not work? Those simple things. Nothing that Job ever came across. It's simple though that the purpose of what happened to Job and the reason why Job's story is here so many thousands of years ago is for us as we go through our Job experiences. Is that simply enough, God's saying that if you know who I am, you will trust me, and that will be enough of an explanation for you. We may never not know the reason why these things happen, why bad things happen to good people, but the fact of the matter is that as we go through those bad days, as we go through the trouble that afflicts us sometimes, like that, suffice it to know what Job got through this thing, that as you trusted me, I was there to get you through it. Job's bad day turned out for him better than before. In the 42nd chapter, Job says here, so the Lord blessed the latter end of Job more than his beginning. And after this lived Job 140 years and saw his sons and his sons' sons, even for 4 generations. So Job died being old and full of days. He recovered. And then it talks about the fact that his wealth and his value and his comforts of home was more than double of what he lost before, but he had to go through that process. That process was basically building his faith in the Lord to be unshakable, no matter what could come across us. Now, the Lord is merciful to us in many situations. Again, some of the things that we're all going through, or you're going through, are terrible and frightening. But the idea is, don't lose your trust in the Lord that God can get you through this and get you through anything, because we're living this life. We're in this world, but we're not of it, as we're told. And maybe Job went through all that he did so we can relate him with the troubles that we go through. And who knows? There's another book maybe being written by God that has you in it. And your Job story. That we could learn from Job's experience. And get through the situations that we have in our life. Because through those bad days that we have, we know that God will strengthen us. As long as we continue to trust Him. Trust in Him with all your heart. Here we go again. Acknowledge Him in all your ways. And He will direct your paths. He directed Job's path. And it wasn't comfortable for this poor guy. But this isn't the life that we're looking to lead and live. It's what comes afterwards. And to be able to read a little of that song. Okay, well, maybe we can get that teed up. You know, so we have things that happen in our life. But there's a song here by a young lady called Lauren Davis. And it's simply called "It'll Be Okay." I don't know if you ever heard this. It reflects upon us going through our Job experiences when we can't take it anymore. That it'll be okay. I think that's what God is telling us, because as Joyce said, we know that God is here and He's there and He's always with us. But no matter what you're going through right now, God is telling us you're going to be okay. All right, I get it. I think they can hear it.